Good afternoon. I hope everybody's dry. My name is Joe Keneally, and I'm a senior here at Cleveland Heights. I'm a member of the National Honor Society, the Jazz Band, and the Symphonic Winds Ensemble. This fall, I'll attend Cleveland State University to study urban planning. Thank you. This afternoon, it's my honor to introduce Dr. Tovah Klein, class of 1982. She is the director at the Barnard College Toddler Center in New York City as an international expert on child development. When I spoke to Dr. Klein, I was very impressed with her passion for learning. She has published so much and has a new book in the future. She said that her passion for learning started at Heights High with her teacher, Dottie Ikove. This really sparked her learning and has been very influential for her. While I'm just getting ready to graduate, I share Dr. Klein's appreciation for the teachers at Heights High and their influence on me. I also identified with Dr. Klein's love of Cleveland Heights. She said that it was a small town, but still had the advantages of a major urban center. Without further ado, here's Dr. Klein.
Thank you, Joe. I have to echo that Joe has been my chaperone all day, and I was sure I would be lost in this building, but thank you, because I did not get lost. I'm beyond honored to be here. I'll try not to cry. I have to say that Heights High runs deep in my blood. My brothers who are here know that. My parents know that. My husband knows that. My children know that. They hear about it all the time. I want to thank the teachers and the staff that I had in the Alumni Association, and also Sue Sachs, who nominated me. When I got to Barnard as a professor many years ago now, I met Sue Sachs. She was a psychology and education professor, and guess what? She was a class of one of the 1950s at Cleveland Heights High School. So out of 10 faculty members, 2 of us were from Heights High. Heights is everywhere. And yesterday I was at a meeting in New York City on our very segregated New York City public schools, and it reminded me of who I am and where I come from, because New York City is the most international, most diverse city in this country, if not the world, and we have the most segregated schools. But my husband and I have worked very hard to find the most diverse public schools in New York City for all 3 of our children, and that has sat in my heart. Why? Because I knew that education was so much more than academics. It was about the people, it was about the teachers, and it was being in a place that wasn't all white, that wasn't about people who looked like you or came from backgrounds like you. And that comes from my education here. I've also always been appreciative of my parents, who very intentionally chose Cleveland Heights when they were relocated to Cleveland. We heard about this our whole lives. They picked a nursery school for us that had children of different colors, and they wanted us in the Cleveland Heights schools, and that has really informed my work. At Heights High, not only did we have in the 1970s, did I have friends from all different backgrounds and places and cultures, but from all different abilities. And as I watch my own children and I do my own work, where I see children so trapped as if smart kids shouldn't be with struggling kids, that was not the case when we were here. We were all in it together. My friends who went to summer school to make up credits because they had failed came back the next year. Those of us who did well, we all went to class together. I also had role models here. Dottie Ikove was an English teacher. I don't know if any of you had the privilege of having her, but I didn't love English, and I loved her, and she turned me on to literature, particularly satire. And when my own children read it, all I could do was talk about her. But she also showed me that you had to be passionate. You had to be passionate about whatever you chose to do, that it was okay to think outside the box, and that you should think outside the box, as she did. And I also learned here about the Me Too movement. So to you young women here who are unfortunately learning about it but have such voice, we didn't have voice, and I was stunned to find out that our high school teachers looked at us as objects and rated us. I was appalled. And I remember thinking there was nothing I could do then, but it did give me voice. And the young people have much more voice in this, and I'm just thrilled to see that. So where does this take me now? I was thinking of how insecure I was in high school, and yet how bold, and maybe that's a metaphor for life. I helped organize the boycott against our prom because it was at Stouffer's, and I was boycotting Stouffer's, but I was also in homeroom and friends with one of the two people organizing prom. And we would sit and we would laugh and we would joke and we would rib each other. And as I look at an increasingly divided society, I think we need to do that. We need to sit down with people who we disagree with, but come together and find the good in people. And when I look back at my path and I see some of my friends who are here tonight, my family members are here, I have friends here, many of whom struggled in life. We all struggle, we all have ups and downs, but community matters. We've still reached out to each other, we've still turned to each other, and we've made it. We're here. We all made it through high school. Some of us took longer than others, but we all graduated. And I think the bottom line is when there's community and you realize that you have similar goals, you reach those goals together. I was bold, I realized that, and I think people saw me as bold, and what they didn't understand was that I was also scared underneath. And much of the work I do with children and families are children and families who are struggling. It's not so hard to find good in people who might on the outside look like they're not so good, but you can look a little deeper and you find it. So I go back to the work I do with children because I think it informs all of us. That if we could be more like children with that wonder and curiosity which attracts me to young children, what do? They stop, they look up, by the way, they also look down, but they look up, they observe, they're open to new things, they're afraid of the unknown, but they're willing to go into it. And they're open to new paths, and they're certainly open to relationships and people. So being here today and being shown through classes and talking to students, I'm just reminded that it's relationships who make us who we are. And thank you.